Holy shit. He said what?
Things just got a whole load worse for Meghan Markle because her sister Samantha ain't going anywhere.
In my opinion, she would still be a waitress if it wasn't for Dad.
People think her kids are fake. They think they're AI.
Harry and Meghan are actually playing a very game at the moment.
What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle's story wasn't the whole truth?
Yeah, well, it's as if Meghan is now trying to turn your own daughter against you.
Right.
For years, her rise has been told like a modern fairy tale, an actress turned duchess.
She delivered it like an actress delivered it, an opera responded going, wow.
Breaking barriers and rewriting what it means to be royal. But behind that polished image, another voice has been fighting to be heard. And now, that voice is echoing through the courtroom in a way Meghan never expected.
I mean, her father is recovering from a stroke, literally about a 3-hour drive. I mean, could you believe that? She doesn't have a father.
Because this isn't just about sibling rivalry. It isn't even just about a messy family feud splashed across headlines. What's unfolding right now could challenge the very foundation of Meghan's carefully built reputation.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. I would have loved to have had siblings. That's why I'm so excited to be pregnant, so that Archie has someone.
From her Oprah interview to her glossy Netflix deals. And at the center of it all is Samantha Markle, the half-sister Meghan once described as distant, irrelevant, almost non-existent.
And when you're pregnant, there's not a pillow under your skirt, and there's live footage of her walking towards camera.
But Samantha insists she has receipts, photographs, timelines, details that paint a very different picture of their past.
With her abdomen swaying left to right in a black and white checkered dress.
Court insiders whisper that Meghan was left visibly shaken as Samantha's claims resurfaced, forcing uncomfortable questions about who's telling the truth and who's rewriting history. And here's the twist. This courtroom battle isn't just dredging
I do believe because there are no delivery certificates
up old wounds, it's threatening to spill into Meghan's public image, her Hollywood brand, and even the trust she's built with millions of supporters. So buckle up, because what started as a family dispute has evolved into something much bigger, a clash of narratives, a fight for credibility, and a story with stakes that reach far beyond the walls of any courtroom.
silence everybody and just produce a DNA sample.
They want to hide their secrets, and I just love digging away to find out what they don't want us to know.
And what comes next may be the most explosive revelation yet. To understand why Meghan Markle now finds herself sitting across from Samantha in a courtroom, we need to go back to the moment that reignited this family feud on a global scale. Meghan and Harry's tell-all interview with Oprah Winfrey in 2021. It was one of the most watched and most talked about interviews of the decade. Millions tuned in to hear Meghan describe life inside the royal family, and she didn't hold back. But what really struck Samantha wasn't just Meghan's claims about palace life, it was what Meghan said about her own family. Meghan told Oprah that she grew up as an only child, a statement that stunned Samantha and many who knew the family. To Meghan, perhaps, it was her way of describing an upbringing where she didn't feel close to her half-siblings. But to Samantha, those words were not only untrue, they were damaging. According to Samantha, this was more than just exaggeration. She believed Meghan was deliberately erasing her from the story, painting a false picture for the world, and in the process, tarnishing Samantha's name and credibility. And that's when Samantha decided to take action. She filed a defamation lawsuit, claiming Meghan had spread lies that caused real harm to her reputation, her career, and even her safety. The lawsuit itself became a media frenzy. On one side, Meghan's supporters saw it as another example of her being dragged down by family members she barely had contact with.
Someday Meghan's going to realize that she's obviously missing out on a really good, tight-knit family. I mean, we're all still together all the time, no matter what.
On the other, Samantha's camp insisted this was about truth, about standing up against what she described as fiction disguised as fact. And as the legal battle unfolded, it became clear this wasn't going to be a simple he said, she said. Samantha promised evidence, timelines, and proof to challenge Meghan's version of events. Meghan's team, meanwhile, stood firm, arguing that her words were opinions, not lies, and certainly not defamatory. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Court documents revealed Samantha wasn't just upset about Oprah. She was also pointing to Meghan's Netflix series, her best-selling memoir, Spare, and other public comments where Meghan, in Samantha's view, repeatedly tried to distance herself from her siblings and reshape her childhood story. And with both sides digging in, the courtroom became more than a place for legal arguments. It became the stage for a deeper battle, a fight over who gets to control the narrative of Meghan Markle's life. The tension inside the courtroom was thick enough to cut with a knife. Reporters filled the gallery, their pens ready, eyes darting between Meghan and Samantha, waiting for the moment something explosive would happen. And then it did. Samantha's lawyers began laying out what they described as a pattern of misrepresentation. Piece by piece, they presented photographs, documents, and timelines aimed at showing that Meghan's public statements about growing up as an only child simply didn't align with reality. Family photos were displayed, smiling faces, holidays, school events, all suggesting a connection that Meghan had once dismissed as distant or non-existent. Observers noted that Meghan, usually composed and confident in public, seemed visibly unsettled as some of the evidence was read aloud. She shifted in her seat, her gaze hardening at moments, softening at others, as if fighting to keep her emotions in check. At one point, Samantha's legal team even read passages from Meghan's own memoir and interviews, juxtaposing them with old letters and statements that seemed to tell a very different story. But the real shock came when Samantha herself spoke. Calm but firm, she described how Meghan's words had allegedly upended her life, how being labeled a stranger to her own sister had led to online harassment, threats, and damage to her personal reputation. For Samantha, this wasn't just about sibling rivalry. It was, in her words, about survival. The courtroom sat in silence as her voice carried across the room. And while Meghan didn't directly respond, her lawyers instructed her to remain composed. Those who watched closely said her reaction spoke volumes. A tight jaw, a clenched hand, a momentary glance toward Harry, who sat quietly by her side, his expression unreadable. It was clear to everyone present, this wasn't just legal sparring. This was a family's private pain laid bare for the world to dissect. And for Meghan, it was the first time in a long time that she wasn't the one controlling the narrative. It didn't take long for the drama inside the courtroom to explode beyond its walls. Within hours, headlines lit up across the globe. Tabloids ran bold claims, talk shows dissected every detail, and social media erupted with debates over who was really telling the truth.
I don't like to say it, but I gotta say it. I don't know of anybody that cold to do this.
Supporters of Meghan rushed to her defense, insisting Samantha's lawsuit was nothing more than an attempt to grab attention. But critics seized the moment, pointing to the photographs and testimony as evidence that Meghan's story wasn't as airtight as she wanted the world to believe. The frenzy only grew as clips from the proceedings circulated online. Comment sections turned into battlefields, hashtags trended worldwide, and the Markle family feud became once again the headline story nobody could ignore. For Meghan, the court fight was no longer just about legal arguments. It had become a public trial of her character, one playing out in real time in front of millions. For Meghan, the courtroom drama isn't happening in a vacuum. Every word spoken, every headline printed, has ripple effects that extend far beyond legal filings. Her public image has become one of her greatest assets, a carefully built brand tied to Hollywood deals, charity projects, and a reputation for resilience. But when that brand is challenged, everything hangs in the balance. Netflix deals, book sales, and speaking engagements thrive on credibility. If Samantha's claims take hold, they risk planting seeds of doubt in the very audience Meghan has worked so hard to win over. Suddenly, interviews that once seemed empowering are being rewatched with a more skeptical eye. Social media users who once defended her fiercely are beginning to ask uncomfortable questions. And for the royal family, who Meghan and Harry have distanced themselves from, this case becomes yet another point of tension. It fuels critics who argue Meghan isn't a victim, but a master storyteller who bends the truth to fit her narrative. Whether that's fair or not doesn't matter as much as how it looks, and right now, perception is everything. At its core, this trial is no longer just about what Meghan said in an interview. It's about whether the public continues to believe in the image she's built, or whether cracks in the foundation start to show. Through it all, one figure has remained by Meghan's side, Prince Harry. Inside the courtroom, he sits quietly, rarely showing emotion, but his presence speaks volumes. For Meghan's supporters, his loyalty is proof of their unshakable bond, a husband standing firmly with his wife no matter the storm. But for critics, Harry's silence is just as telling, a sign that he's caught in a fight he never wanted to be part of. This isn't just Meghan's battle, it's Harry's too. Every headline about Meghan inevitably ties back to him, reviving old wounds from his split with the royal family, and reigniting debates about whether stepping away from the monarchy brought freedom or just more chaos. Insiders whisper that Harry has urged Meghan to remain composed, reminding her that every reaction inside the courtroom could become tomorrow's headline. Yet, the weight on him is undeniable. Watching his wife be challenged so publicly forces Harry into a role he's lived before, defending the woman he loves against relentless scrutiny. But unlike the palace press wars, this isn't a faceless institution he's up against. It's family, and that makes the stakes and the pain even harder to bear. For now, Harry remains a steady presence, but questions linger. How long can he endure the toll this feud takes, not only on Meghan's reputation, but on his own legacy? At first glance, this might seem like nothing more than than a messy family feud, two sisters clashing over words, interviews, and reputations. But the truth is, what's happening here reaches far beyond Meghan and Samantha. It's about the power of narrative in today's world, where one person's story can shape careers, influence millions, and even rewrite history. For Meghan, the stakes are enormous. She isn't just a celebrity or a duchess, she's a global brand. Every charity appearance, every deal, every headline depends on people believing in her authenticity. If Samantha succeeds in planting doubt, it doesn't just bruise Meghan's ego. It could weaken the foundation of everything she's built since stepping away from royal life. And for the public, this trial raises uncomfortable questions. How much of what we consume about famous figures is polished storytelling, and how much is truth? In an age where perception often matters more than fact, this battle forces us to confront just how easily narratives can be shaped and how quickly they can unravel. In the end, this isn't just Meghan Markle's fight. It's a reflection of the culture we live in, where reputations are currency, and a single courtroom exchange can change the trajectory of a global figure's legacy. So where does this leave Meghan Markle? The courtroom battles may be legal in nature, but the fallout is far more public. A high-stakes test of credibility, loyalty, and how carefully crafted narratives can survive scrutiny. Samantha Markle's persistence has forced the world to reconsider what really happened behind the cameras, behind the headlines, and behind Meghan's public persona. For Meghan, the challenge is clear: maintain composure, protect her image, and navigate a media landscape that's ready to amplify every crack in the story. For Samantha, it's about proving that her side of the story cannot be ignored, that the past she shared with her sister deserves recognition. And for viewers, the question lingers: what do we believe, and who decides the truth in a world where stories are told for influence as much as for fact? The courtroom may have adjourned, but the debate is far from over. Every new filing, every new revelation could reshape how the world sees Meghan Markle, and the ripple effects are only just beginning. The drama isn't finished, and the next chapter could be even more explosive than what we've already seen. So pay attention, because this story is far from over, and you won't want to miss what comes next.